So I'm going to take a few minutes to finish that problem that we didn't get to complete during our notes today. So let's take a look. We have two rational expressions that are being subtracted. And anytime we're subtracting rational expressions, we need common denominators. But we can see that these two denominators are not common denominators. So it's going to be our job to rewrite them and to manipulate each fraction to get the denominators to look identical. And the steps for doing that is to factor each denominator, and then we're going to use multiplication to get common denominators. So my first job is going to be to factor this trinomial into as many factors as possible. And I would use AC method to do this, but for this example, I'm just going to do some mental math. So here we go. So factoring this trinomial, I'm going to get x plus 2 times x plus 3. And I'm going to put a little note here that I should use AC method to factor this. There we go. And I'm going to do the same process over here. I can use AC method on some scratch paper on the side to factor this trinomial, and I'll end up with the factors x plus 2 times x plus 1. So we're one step closer to getting our common denominator. So taking a look at these denominators, I see that they have the factor x plus 2 in common. And I'm going to use multiplication to get these two denominators to look identical. So I can see that my first denominator is missing the factor x plus 1. So I'm going to multiply this rational expression by an x plus 1 in the denominator and in the numerator. And the second denominator is missing the factor x plus 3. So I'm going to multiply an x plus 3 in this denominator. And to make that legal, I'm also going to multiply an x plus 3 in the numerator. So now I have two denominators that are identical to each other. They're made up of the exact same three factors. So I'm going to rewrite these fractions by distributing the numerator to see what our new numerators look like. So I'm going to have an x squared plus x in this numerator with my three factors. And I'm not going to actually spend the time multiplying all these factors in the denominator together, because my last step is going to be to reduce, and if I multiply all these together, I'm just going to have to refactor it, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to leave them in pieces, and I'm going to subtract a 2x plus 6. Okay, so I definitely have a common denominator now, so I can subtract these fractions. The common denominator will remain the same, and I will subtract the numerators. So my common denominator is going to stay exactly the same. And I'm going to take the first numerator as is, and then subtract this entire binomial. I'm going to subtract the entire second numerator. So I'll have x squared plus x minus the entire second numerator, which will be a 2x plus a 6. So I'm going to have to subtract both pieces of this binomial. So that will look like, let's see, let's move this up here. So doing that, I'll have an x squared plus an x minus a 2x minus a 6 when I distribute this subtraction to both pieces of my binomial. And then my common denominator will stay common. Okay. So now I'm going to clean up this numerator. I can combine like terms, x plus a negative 2x here. That will combine to a negative x. And so our last step is to see if this rational expression can be reduced. And it definitely has potential because this trinomial in the numerator can be factored. So I would use AC method on my scratch paper on the side to factor this trinomial. And I would see that it factors into the pieces x minus 3 and x plus 2. I'm going to rewrite my denominator. Okay, so we're almost done. All we need to do is see if any of our factors in the numerator can divide with any of the factors in the denominator. And I see that an x plus 2 in the numerator will divide with this x plus 2 in the in the denominator will divide with this x plus 2 in the numerator. So those divide out to 1. And I am left with an x minus 3 over an x plus 3 times an x plus 1. So that is my reduced answer to this subtraction problem. So just recapping our steps. We started with two rational expressions that were being subtracted. My first job before I can subtract these guys was to get common denominators. So I factored each of the denominators, and then I took a step back and asked myself, what do those denominators have in common, if anything? And they did have one factor in common, so I used multiplication to make the denominators look identical. Then I used distribution to get my new numerators. And then I was ready to subtract these fractions, and I kept in mind that I had to subtract both pieces of the second numerator. So I had to distribute the subtraction to both terms in that binomial. And once I distributed the subtraction, then I could combine like terms to simplify my numerator. And my last step was to ask myself if this guy can reduce. Can he reduce? I factored the numerator and found out that there were factors that divided to 1. So I got my simplified answer. And we're done.